Whether it's the climate crisis, inflation, or challenges to U.S. democracy, there isn't a ton of happy news leaping from the headlines these days, but it is out there. And my next guest is trying with all of her might to make it a little bit more prominent, chronicling as much as she can on her Instagram page, Good News Movement, and now she has a children's book based on the same idea. It's called A Good Thing Happened Today, and she even managed to get a copy to the Princess of Wales when she was in town for a gift for the royal kids. Author Michelle Figueroa joins me. Michelle, welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here.
What a happy day. We're having a happy day.
Absolutely. I think one of the best jobs is constantly receiving every minute good news from around the world. And there's never a shortage of good news. So that's a good news for everyone to hear, that there's never a shortage.
That's a funny thing. A lot of folks will ask me, in this business, how do I stay positive? And I always point out, well, as terrible as things are sometimes and often, we're actually in the best possible position we've ever been in humanity, right? I mean, people are healthier, people are living longer. There's a lot of good news. And in our everyday neighborhood interactions, good things happen. Talk about this book. Talk about A Good Thing Happened Today. What are some of the interactions that you're highlighting that maybe we should pay attention to and share with our family and friends?
So all the stories in this book are real-life stories that were featured on Good News Movement on Instagram. And they're stories from all over the world. And what connects all these stories are people doing good. Even in the most dire of circumstances, people say, these are tough times, Michelle. Don't you think it's naive to only look at the good? Well, there's so much good news. And I feel like we can have a distorted sense of reality if we watch the news and only see the bad. So I want to share with kids that there's so much good in the world. They can be the good news. For example, in Puerto Rico, there was the devastating Hurricane Maria. Well, kids got together and were painting strangers' homes, planting trees. And this kind of gives ideas, kind of a reference book, like, how can I change the world? It can be kind of a daunting question for children and adults. So hopefully this gives them a little bit of guidance.
I want to give folks a taste of your Instagram page. You directed and produced this video about a surfing program in Rhode Island for kids who have a wide range of disabilities and mental health conditions. Let's take a look at this video.
Sounds good.
It makes me happy this much. I get to meet new instructors and they become my friends.
So my son has Williams syndrome. It's a neurological disorder. He's on the autism spectrum. So he has a difficult time dealing with sensitivity issues and dealing with other people. He's nonverbal.
We're just using surfing as a vehicle, but what we're really teaching these kids out there is to, how to fall off and stand back up again.
So it is absolutely impossible to look at that and not smile.
Oh my goodness.
Right?
Absolutely. What a wonderful human. This one surfer, it just shows you the power in numbers. One person got together all these volunteers. And the greatest thing, I arrived at the beach and I had volunteer cameramen. They kept on showing up. There were like 4 cameramen just wanting to shoot. And they're like, I don't want to charge you. I just want to get the story out because people need to see the good.
Talk to me about the balance. I'm terrible at this at home. I am practical, pragmatic, realistic, and in times when I'm supposed to be a cheerleader, I just completely fail because I'm always pointing to things are better than they ever have been. Let's get going. But, in your book, you're not erasing the incidents that are happening, the realities that are happening. You're just saying, let's look at this part. So how do you do the balance when you're putting this book together with Ramona Kalitsky? Did I say it right?
Kalitsky, yeah,
Kalitsky,
pretty
who's
close.
a great New York Times bestselling illustrator. The pictures and illustrations are tremendous. How do you get that balance together? It's real, but here's how we should take a look at it.
Exactly. I've always thought that, there should at least be an equal balance of positive news. We need to know about the bad news. So I figured these stories were ones that stood out for me, that resonated with me, like a girl in Denmark. She was just so frustrated that her neighbors were lonely and said, how can I make their day? So she actually got a postal worker uniform donated to her, and she delivered all these kind letters. So that's something that a kid could look at and say, hey, I'm going to do something similar at my senior center with people that sometimes are alone, and don't have anyone to visit them.
What's the reaction to the book, Ben? What have people been telling you?
Oh, it's been so sweet to get all the messages of kids enjoying story time, asking questions. You know, the story in Kenya, why is this guy bringing water to the elephants? Why is he spending hours in, you know, because there's drought and because there are circumstances we can't control. Recently, I was asked by the BBC, you know, there's so much bad in the world. We're going through tough times. How can you see the good? And tough times have always existed. This isn't anything new. Think about it. There have always been wars and natural disasters. Even in Florida, there was flooding, but I featured a video of a stranger saving an elderly man's life. He was trapped in a vehicle. So there's good within the bad, and I think during these tough times, the brightest of humanity shines the strongest. So during the pandemic, my numbers actually doubled on my page from 500,000 to 1 million followers at the beginning of the pandemic. So we're always kind of searching for the light. And I hope this book is kind of a pause from all the madness of our day and maybe all the running around for kids in their day, and just a moment of silence at the end of the night to reflect on what the world could be. You know, I want people to hear more of what's good with them and not what's wrong with them. So
how did you get into this? How did you know, I've seen your name for years. I've seen your press releases. I've seen your efforts to spread some good news in all times. How did this become an interest of yours?
I got rejected a lot and I was frustrated. I would find these wonderful gems of stories. I mean, I have a next door neighbor who's a Holocaust survivor who was saved by a teddy bear his mom made and offered to the Nazi guard and said, hey, if you don't liberate us, you're not going to have teddy bears for your for Christmas. So stories like that, nobody was picking them up. And I said, this can't be. And by the way, I just made him an Amazon bestseller because my followers were voting for his book. So stories like that, they need to be shown to the world. So I got frustrated. I had an ear infection in bed in 2018.
And you're in the news business.
Yes.
Right, so you were actually in the news business pitching these.
So I was really pitching it to, I was seeing that everybody was rejecting me. So it's okay to be rejected, and kind of, it was good. It was good because I realized there was a gap that wasn't being filled. And I said, I'm a journalist. I'm going to create this good news page. And just people started, you know, following really quickly. It didn't take long for it to snowball. Even before Prince Harry and Meghan Markle featured my page, even before that, public figures were following and supporting me. So I'm very grateful.
You know, people in the news business, some people in the news business will say, you know, we don't tell good stories because people don't care, right? They won't tune in to watch it. They'd rather see these stories that are news because it's rare. Bad news is rare almost by its definition of being news. What do you say to those news directors who wait for till there's no news almost before they actually do a feature on something that is heartwarming or makes you feel good?
Right. Well, I mean, news in its essence is a business. So I think people were nervous to change the equation and mess with, you know, what had been working. But now, I mean, in less than 4 years, my page has 4.5 million followers, which I looked up as the population of New Zealand, just randomly. Yeah, but now the Today Show airs our stuff pretty much weekly. And so now a lot of good news verticals are being created by these legacy networks that at first, you know, they kind of scoffed, oh yeah, you know, they scoffed at my pitches. Yep. And now they're using my content. So I'm so glad I'm making at least a little bit of an impact, and, you know, that people are seeing more good news in their feeds. And, you know, good news breeds good news. People, when they see it, they want to replicate it. And that's the same with the book. And I'm so glad I have something tangible because, you know, online is great, but actually seeing my hard work in book form is really gratifying.
And the illustrations are tremendous. I mean, you know, it's I think one of the keys to children's books, and I've read a lot of them over the years, is actually the gifts that are in it for the adults reading it, right? You know,
absolutely.
That you want to see some Easter eggs, as they call them, for us, and the illustrations are tremendous. And it's almost like a how-to guide to talk to your kids and show them examples for what they can do. So the book is just out.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you that hard question. What's next? I mean, are we
another book,
or are we going to have a good thing happen today on ice?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm definitely open to all formats and sharing the good in any way I can. I actually have started a kindness tour across the U.S., going to different elementary schools, and that consists of me reading, and then I ask the kids, what's your good news? And it's very adorable because you have 5- and 6-year-olds telling them what's the good news in their life, like they're oh, my dog let me pet him. It's just really sweet. But it's a nice moment for us to celebrate all the good in the world. And then I have a kindness curriculum where I go through real life examples of how they can make a difference in the world.
And it's a good meditation. It's a good practice to get everyone to
Absolutely.
start. Okay, the book again is A Good Thing Happened Today. Certainly visit your Instagram page.
Thank you.
And illustrations by Ramona.
Kaolitsky.
There you go, Ramona Kaolitsky. Thanks so much for
Thank
joining.
you.
It's
It was
great
a
to meet you,
pleasure.
Michelle.